He has become the Tim Tebow of college football, but in this case, he deserves his starting position. There is no question about that. We're, of course, talking about Johnny Manziel of Texas A&M. And here on Mark Rogers TV, we must be napping on the job because it's been almost a week since we posted a video on Johnny football. That was the A.J. McCarron versus Johnny football back and forth during SEC football media days. And we did a video post on their burgeoning rivalry in the midst of the A&M Alabama back and forth, and that rivalry, that's a new one, of course, but very chic, very hot in college football. Check out that post because we made some comparisons there and would love to hear back from you. But now we get back to our series on the best offenses in college football, and this is legit. Texas A&M, no question, belongs in this debate. We've addressed Clemson, we've talked about Oregon, Alabama, and Georgia. We've got a couple more to go, including A&M, and we're going to talk about the Aggies through and through here, but of course it begins and ends with Johnny Manziel. What a freshman season. What else can we add to the discussion when it comes to Johnny football? It's all over the place, ad nauseum, but let's run through the numbers one more time. 5,000 total yards of offense out of this guy, 3,700 passing, 1,300 yards rushing, 47 total touchdowns, 26 passing, 21 rushing, through 9 picks, 68% completion percentage out of a freshman. Those are the stats. Okay, to watch him was so much better. He is so elusive, so quick in the open field, made the right decisions of when to throw and when to run for his life. Yes, he had a top offensive line, but he made such great decisions in the open field, when to run, when to pass, threw it out of the pocket, threw it on the run, threw it across his body, threw it every which way. Had snaps pop up in the air, caught him and threw him for touchdown passes. You've seen the highlights. Johnny football was amazing as a freshman. Two of his lesser efforts, though, early in the season against Florida and against LSU. We will get to that in just a second as well. So Johnny football, amazing. Of course, A&M doesn't want to think about who's backing up Manziel, but it's Matt Jokel, the junior, fourth-year, redshirt junior, who's got the most experience through all of like 10 or 11 passes last season. Also Matt Davis, who's a redshirt freshman, and also Kenny Hill, the true freshman, who may see some playing time when Manziel moves on to the NFL, because Kenny Hill is the most talented of the threesome backing up Johnny football. At running back, Benny Malena is one of the hidden secrets, one of the true secrets in the running game in college football. Ran for almost 1,000 yards and 8 touchdowns. Benny Malena at 808, 8 touchdowns, caught 18 passes as well. Expect those numbers to go up. At running back, you also have sophomore Trey Williams. He had a nice effort with 376 and 5 touchdowns. He caught 17 passes as well. And 2 intriguing transfers coming in from Oklahoma and Oregon in Brandon Williams and Trey Carson. They contributed over 200 yards each, 219 for Williams in Norman, and Carson had 252 in 2011 in Eugene. So both had to sit out last season, but they're ready to contribute. So this is maybe the deepest running back core in college football when you talk Malena, Williams, Carson, and Brandon Williams out of Oklahoma in support of Johnny Manziel. Okay, let's look at the wide receivers because there is a ton of them. The big loss, of course, Ryan Swope, one of the best in college football, moves on to the NFL, replaced as the number 1 guy by Mike Evans, who as a redshirt freshman caught 82 passes for 1,100 yards and 5 touchdowns. We went back and researched Mike Evans' recruiting figures and rankings coming out of high school. He was the 52nd ranked wide receiver in 2012 coming out of high school by ESPNU. 52nd, and there are arguably 3 guys ahead of him who have arguably had similar seasons as a freshman. So throw out the rankings at times because these guys, sometimes they step up and produce and sometimes they don't. But Mike Evans in a big way with 82 receptions, 1,100 yards. No question that Malcolm Kennedy will get more touches coming up in 2013 after catching 26 for 285 and 2 touchdowns. So we know Kennedy and we know that Evans will be starting at wide receiver for the Aggies. Now, who's going to join them? We have got a list of names, starting with Sabian Holmes in the slot, He caught 6 last season. LaKendrick Williams, also LaQuinte Gonzalez, a freshman, very highly touted, the 9th-ranked wide receiver by ESPNU coming out of high school. Sebastian LaRue, Jeremy Tabayo, Darrell Walker is a senior. He's probably going to play on the outside. We would expect him to get action for sure. Jaquay Williams as well, highly touted as well. Edward Pope. Ricky Seals-Jones, one of the top 10 ranked wide receivers coming out of high school this season. He's just a freshman, so he should see some playing time as well. So A&M adds to Evans and Kennedy, 2 of the top 10 wide receivers coming out of high school, and a lot of guys who are decent, who are considered mid-level recruits who should step into the fray as well when we talk about all those guys. All right, an intriguing guy to talk about here at tight end is Cameron Clear. He is a junior college transfer at 6'6", 270. 6'6", 270, running in the seam. SEC defenses will have to game plan for Cameron Clear, and also the senior returning Nehemiah Hicks as well for Texas A&M. All right, let's talk about the offensive line. We've got all sorts of guys to talk about because in addition to Alabama, this A&M offensive line was the best in college football. One of the big reasons why, talent, of course, but also because this unit stayed intact. All 5 starters played every game. All 14 games, 5 starters. Now, Kevin Sumlin cannot expect that kind of health to hold out for a second consecutive season, so the depth is going to be important. And it's important to note, therefore, that the depth is much better going into 2013 for A&M along the offensive front than it was in 2012. And that's despite losing one of the best in the country in Luke Joeckel, of course, now playing for the Kansas City Chiefs, and also Patrick Lewis at center. All right, you got Jake Matthews moving from right tackle to left tackle to replace Joeckel. He's an All-America, first-team All-SEC performer with 33 career starts. You've got at left guard Jarvis Harrison, who had 17 starts on the other side of the line. Center is sophomore Mike Matthews, who was a backup in 2012 but got plenty of playing time in a backup role. At right tackle, you've got the junior Cedric Abuhi, who is moving from right guard to right tackle. He's got 19 career starts. So you see, with 19 starts there, 17 out of Harrison and 33 out of Matthews, there's a lot of experience coming back despite the loss of Joeckel and Lewis. You also have the redshirt freshman German Afidi, who's going to play the right guard position, and you Texas A&M junkies can correct me on the pronunciation there. The backups are solid, as we know. We've checked out many sources who say that the offensive line depth is much better going into 2013 than what we saw last season. Few things to note. I really locked into the Cotton Bowl and the production of Texas A&M. Check out, going way back to January, our Cotton Bowl preview and our post, because that game unfolded as we predicted, with Oklahoma running away, or Texas A&M running away from the Sooners in the second half. Wow, did this offense explode. The Aggies had 7 points midway through the second quarter. Then they exploded for 633 yards and finished out with a 41-13 rout of a top 12 team. Very impressive. On the other hand, we know that the SEC is very proud. The SEC, top to bottom, has the best defenses in college football, the best speed and the best talent on that side of the football, specifically at defensive end and outside linebacker in particular. LSU and Florida had the talent and also the game plan to handle Johnny Manziel. They also probably caught him at the best time, of course, early in the season before he matured. He was still lights out against the Louisiana Techs and Arkansas of the world. But when he faced LSU and Florida, in both those games at College Station, they made him look rather ordinary. No, they didn't pick off a whole lot of passes, didn't make him look bad, but they really contained him with their speed and with their scheme. So SEC defensive coordinators are certainly going to be checking out the Florida and LSU game tapes from 2012. The place kicker, Taylor Bertolet, only hit on 13 of 22 field goals last year. What's interesting about that? He also missed 7 PATs, got a shot at 74 point-after attempts. That's how much the Aggies scored, hit on 67 of 74. He also hit on 3 of 4 from plus 50. So get him out plus 50, and he's a 75% kicker at 3 of 4, but only 10 of 18, 49 minus. All right, that's the Texas A&M offense as we see it. Great depth at the running back position with Malena and company. Of course, Johnny Manziel pulling the trigger. Evans at wide receiver, but he's going to need some support. But there are tons of names to go through and to be sorted out in August drills by Kevin Sumlin to determine who are going to be those 3 or 4 wide receivers that are going to be in the mix most of the time on the field for the Aggies. Would love to hear what you have to say about Texas A&M offense right here on Mark Rogers TV.